It looks so Cherokee on the back of that cover.
Well, I am
Yes, yes.
part Cherokee. I'm also Jewish, English, French, Scot, Irish.
You don't say.
I mean, I can talk about everybody, it's free.
No Latin?
We are so blessed to be in each other's presence as you have shared thus far. I thought it'd be fitting. I was deciding what to read, and I'm going to read one of my essays as opposed to poetry from Notre Dame is Burning, the inner reaches of mind within the outer reaches of multidimensional consciousness and the choices we make. How's that for a thumbnail title? And this is called A Different Kind of Christmas Story. Jesus was the most famous man in history. A rabbi, polylinguist, a deeply spiritual genius, and Jewish revolutionary. He was a man of goodness and preached love and kindness in his teachings. Christian canon says he was crucified, resurrected, and sits at the right hand of God. A Jewish historian, Josephus, who recounted a story while scouting some land for a Roman camp, noted surviving crucifixion. In a village named Tekoa, he saw 3 of his own acquaintances hanging from crosses. He asked the Roman general Titus if they could be brought down. Titus allowed this. Medical care was administered immediately. 2 died soon after. The 3rd survived the ordeal. For Jesus to have survived crucifixion would have been miraculous. According to Scripture, Matthew 27:45 through 46, Jesus was on the cross for 6 hours before he gave up his spirit. Luke 23:43 through 46, 6 hours. Mark 27:46, 6 hours. Mark 15:44, and Pilate marveled that he was already dead, unquote. The centurion who was at the execution reassured Pilate. But this very centurion, according to Mark 15:39, had earlier said, quote, "Truly this man is the Son of God," unquote. Jesus' legs had not been broken to speed the process. According to John 19:38 through 42, later Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly because he feared the Jewish leaders. With Pilate's permission, he came and took the body away. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, a man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds. Taking Jesus' body, the 2 of them wrapped it with the spices in strips of linen. This was in accordance with Jewish burial customs. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in a garden a new tomb, in which no one had ever been laid, because it was the Jewish day of preparation, and since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there. According to the Quran, Surah 4:157, quote, that they said, "We killed Jesus Christ, the son of Mary, the apostle of Allah, but they killed him not, nor crucified him. But so it was made to appear to them, and those who differ therein are full of doubts, with no knowledge, but only conjecture to follow. For surely they killed him not." If Jesus were discovered alive, he would still face Roman capital punishment and would have to escape by following the spice or silk route out of Gaza to Yemen and then sailed to India. There is a tradition within Buddhism, a religion 500 years older than Christianity. Upon the death of a great Buddhist, holy man or lama, an investigation of the stars and omens lead to the search for the reincarnation of his spiritual being through the birth of a new child. Often these journeys are long and arduous. When the child is old enough, he is taken away from the parents to educate him in the Buddhist faith. Are these the three wise men we have become so familiar in the Christian story of Jesus' birth? Russian writer Nicholas NOTRE, traveling to India in 1887, discovered a Buddhist manuscript in a monastery in Tibet. He insisted his translator translate the Tibetan language into Russian as he wrote down what the Lama read to him. This manuscript was published as a book, The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ. The contents describe a divine child, Isa, born in the 1st century to a poor family in Israel, who came to India at the age of 14 to study Buddhism until his return when he was 29. He had mastered the Pali language and could flawlessly explain the sacred scrolls of the sutras. He preached, quote, "The temple was in your heart, and your vessels are your hands and eyes for doing good to your fellow man." Unquote. And in doing so, quote, "You perform a ceremony that embellishes the temple wherein abideth him who has created you." Unquote. They saw Isa as the soul of the universe, which had incarnated in a simple mortal to benefit man and destroy the evil spirit in them. There is no record of Jesus from the age of 14 to 29 in Israel, the story we know of him in the New Testament. Loving your enemies and the meek shall inherit the earth are Buddhist traditions, not Jewish. Jesus riled many by speaking out against the caste system and highly praised women, elevating their position in society, stating, "God has made no difference between his children, who are all alike dear to him. It is not good for a son to push away his mother, that he may occupy the place which belongs to her. Whoso does not respect his mother, the most sacred being after his God, is unworthy of the name of his son. Hearken what I say to you. Respect women, for in her we see the mother of the universe, and all the truth of divine creation is to come through her. She is the fount of everything good and beautiful, and she is also the germ of life and death. Upon man depends in all his existence, for she is his moral and natural support in his labors. In pain and suffering she brings you forth. In the sweat of her brow she watches over your growth, and until her death you cause her greatest anxieties. Bless and adore her, for she is your only friend and support on earth. Respect her, defend her. In doing so you will gain for yourself her love. You will find favor before God, and for her sake many sins will be remitted to you. Love your wives and respect them, for they will be the mothers of tomorrow and later the grandmothers of a whole nation. Be submissive to the wife. Her love ennobles man, softens his hardened heart, tames the wild beast in him, and changes it to a lamb. Wife and mother are the priceless treasures which God has given you. They are the most beautiful ornaments of the universe, and from them will be born all who will inhabit the world. Even as the Lord of hosts separates the light from the darkness and the dry land from the waters, so does woman possess the divine gift of calling forth out of man's evil nature all the good that is in him. Therefore, I say unto you, after God, to women must belong your best thoughts, for she is the divine temple where you must easily obtain perfect happiness. Draw from this temple your moral force. There you will forget your sorrows and your failures and recover the love necessary to aid your fellow men. Suffer her not to be humiliated, for by humiliating her you humiliate yourself and lose the sentiment of love without which nothing can exist here on earth. Protect your wife that she may protect you, you and all your household. All that you do for your mothers, your wives, for a widow, or for any woman in distress, you will do for your God. He denied the divine inspiration of the Vedas and the Puranas' teaching. One law has been given unto man to guide him in his education. He denied the Trimurti and the incarnation of Para-Brahma and Vishnu, Shiva, and other gods. Quote, the eternal judge, the eternal spirit constitutes the only and indivisible soul of the universe, and it is this soul alone which creates, contains, and vivifies all. He developed a huge following. He spoke against priests, saying, quote, so long as they, the people, had no priests, they were governed by the natural law and conserved the simplicity of their souls. Unquote. This was a far cry from what would be established by the politically, materially motivated corporate megalith of the church beginning May 20th, June 9th through June 19th, 325 AD at the Council of Nicaea to the Council of Trent in 1545 to 63 AD. The translation also went on to say it was merchants from Israel who told of Jesus' popularity back in Jerusalem that drove Governor Pilate's paranoia for fear of insurrection that led to Jesus' arrest. How in spite of Jesus' horrific torture, he never compromised himself. Before Pilate, he never implicated himself to have been inspired in insurrection and placed himself as king of Israel. Quote, one does not become king by one's own purpose thereto. They have told you an untruth. When you were informed of the King of heaven, and it was him whom I told the people to worship. For the sons of Israel have lost their original innocence, and unless they return to worship the true God, they will be sacrificed, and their temple will fall into ruins. The worldly power upholds order in the land. I told them not to forget this. I said to them, live in conformity with your situation and refrain from disturbing public order. And at the same time, I exhorted them to remember that disorder reigned in their own hearts and spirits. Therefore, the King of Heaven has punished them and has destroyed their nationality and taken from them their national kings. But, I added, if you will be resigned to your fate, as a reward, the kingdom of heaven will be yours. Pilate, trying to deflect his personal responsibility in persecuting Jesus, assembled the high priests of the temple, who uniformly found nothing wrong with Jesus' testimony. And it was they who washed their hands of responsibility, not Pilate, who, they said, wrongly accused Jesus of political sedition, let alone heresy to their faith. Jesus never swayed from the kingdom of heaven lies within your heart and the goodness of your deeds. Thomas the apostle had traveled to India and established a church. The people of Kashmir call their tribe Ben Israel, who they say are descendants of the lost tribes. According to Kashmir legend, in a local structure called the Temple of Solomon, there was an inscription around 50 AD that Yusa Asuf claimed to be the Jesus of Israel. The prophet Isa was known locally as Yusa Asuf, the leader of the healed, who returned to Kashmir in his 30s. Another meaning for Yusa Asuf is shepherd, the one who teaches others. This Isa or Yusa Asuf returned to Kashmir, as confirmed in their history books, to continue his teachings, and died there around 80 AD. He is buried in Srinagar. The first building on the site was built around 112 AD. In the 15th century, an Islamic holy man, Sayyid Nasir-ud-Din, was buried on the site as well. Though both gravestones lay north-south, as in Muslim tradition, Yusa Asuf's grave is east-west, as in Jewish tradition. There is a unique carving of a pair of bare feet alongside the gravestone of Yusa Asuf, with a representational depiction of a scar beyond the toes on both feet. Though the scars don't seem to be in the same place on either foot, if one were to superimpose the left foot over the right, the scars line up as they would if one had their feet nailed during crucifixion. If this is the tomb of Jesus, he spent most of his life in the mountains of Kashmir. Peace. May you resurrect your spirit of purity and unite the consciousness of the world into one.